I'm no bitch. I ain't no bitch. I ain't no
Well, good Sunday afternoon, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as the Funky Chicken. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Hope everybody's having a great day. I am excited to be on this side of the dirt, as I am every single day. And, you know, I've been going through in my mind, I've had so many things that have been going on. I'm a little late getting started for my first video of the day. I just want to spend more time with my beautiful wife and just kind of relax and catch our breath together. And getting up, I'm hearing the birds chirping outside. You begin to see some of the grasses beginning to grow and things. And we are happy that spring is like a renewal. And I'm happy to be here. So as we get through here, we've had a very, very busy off season for the Dallas Cowboys at this time of the year. Usually by this time of the year, we don't have but maybe a couple of our own free agents signed. We are still trying to figure out what's what and who's who. And I know Cowboy fans, we are not happy with what we've done. Now, here, this is going to be funny. I have so many of you Eagle fans that are trolls and that just live here to tell us how much my quarterback sucks, okay? So somebody posted this the other day, and they pointed out that in 2021, first team in NFL history to have a 4,000-yard passing quarterback, 1,000-yard receiver. Now, mind you, Zeke only had 1,006 yards. CeeDee Lamb, we had one great receiver, one Micah Parsons, who was great at sacks, and Trayvon Diggs, who had 10 interceptions. That was a monster season, but the Cowboys had flaws. And I'm going to say one thing here that there's a cause and effect to. First of all, I look around the NFL now, and teams realize you need more than just one wide receiver. And when I look at Zeke Elliott, who had 1,007 yards there, I can't compare that to what Saquon Barkley did this year, which was literally double what he had. Micah Parsons, of course, he always has a lot of sacks and things. But you have to understand something with the Cowboys offense being a number one offense, that typically when they were playing in games, they were getting big leads. They were. And you can say maybe the Cowboys had a soft schedule because the NFC East was not that good and things like that. I don't know how you want to put it. But if you're playing with a lead, the other team is one-dimensional. They're passing the ball more. They're not running the football, which feeds right into Micah Parsons' hands as well as Diggs' hands. It does. If you're passing the ball because you're getting blown out, chances are you're going to get more interceptions. But it's funny because where did it go? Hold on. I have to give props to J007 TV because this is his point here. Listen to this.
You know, some of these Eagles fans on Twitter have got to be the most disingenuous and intellectually dishonest son of a bitches I've ever run across. So let me get this straight. Your GM for the last 4 years, who I'll add is the best GM in football, no cap, best GM. But your GM for the last 4+ years has been wheeling and dealing to improve your team to help your quarterback. Oh, shit! Yet you want to tweet about Burrow and other quarterbacks not having any excuses if they don't do well when you know damn well your quarterback has got a ton of help. Let's run down what you have here. You got 2 top wide receivers. Mm-hmm. You have arguably one of the best, or at least top 5 offensive lines in football. Your defense is pretty solid. You have one of the best young defensive linemen in Jalen Carter in the league, right? You have a GM that is actually good at his job and an owner that stays out of the fucking way. but yet no other quarterbacks, Burrow,
J007, you forgot about Saquon Barkley, who had a top 10 rushing performance, actually top 5. I should say top 5 because he was over, he was close to getting the record. Top 5 rushing performance by a running back in the history of the NFL. But go on. Sorry.
Dak, any of them, have any excuses after your GM basically had to go and build a damn super team for your quarterback? It's all for Rich.
Shout out to J007 TV because he's 100% right. Because this is where, Dak sucks. Jalen Hurts has got more. Okay, you know what? But Jalen Hurts didn't get it by himself. If you put Jalen Hurts with Buffalo, are they winning the Super Bowl? Are they? If you put him with Cincinnati, are they winning the Super Bowl? Are they? If you put him in Dallas, are you winning the Super Bowl? I don't think so. So we're not comparing apples to apples. We're comparing apples to sour oranges at best. You cannot compare the Dallas Cowboys running game that we had last year with what Jalen Hurts had. You cannot compare the offensive line to what Jalen Hurts had last year from the Cowboys. You cannot compare the receiving core and tight end to what the Dallas Cowboys had last year. Tell me one place, one guy besides Dak and Tyler Smith that you could say, and CeeDee Lamb. You got 3 players. 3 players that you could say are comparable to what the Eagles have on the whole offense. Defense, Micah Parsons, that's about it last year. Micah Parsons. That's about the only comparable piece that we can look at on the defense last year and say, hey, that was great. And our kicker. So to go through and say, oh, Dak just sucks. And this goes to Cowboy fans, like Ultra Cowboys, I'm done with you, man. I'm done with you. But the whole thing, Dak sucks. He can't. No, you're right. Dak cannot lead us to a Super Bowl as currently constructed. Nobody can. Interesting piece here where you've got Brandon Cooks. Now, we've had D-Law who kind of bitch slapped the Cowboys on his way out. We got Brandon Cooks who did not get re-signed with the Cowboys. He ended up signing back with New Orleans. Interesting take that he had about Dak Prescott. Oh, my God. You would think that he'd be mad about, being left and, maybe that Dak Prescott didn't take care of him. Let's listen to what Calvin Hill.
Can the Cowboys win with Dak? Is he a quarterback that can win with?
Yes.
He certainly gets a lot of criticism from the outside, even from the own fan base.
So what people don't understand, in my opinion, from a quarterback position, that's why they get paid the big bucks, so I don't feel bad for him. But at the same time, he needs help. And I'm not just saying help from players. You need help as an organization, right? You need to put his teammates in places where they can receive the most help to be the healthiest they can possibly be. Just taking things off his plate, when it comes to play calling and stuff like that. And so it's an umbrella of things that a quarterback needs to win it.
There's a whole lot of things that a quarterback needs to win it. Yeah. And, I have this thing, it crossed my mind listening to Brandon Cooks when he talked about health and things like that. You remember a few weeks ago, the NFLPA had done like a grading of organizations and their facilities and the coaches and things. And people, were talking about how they rated, the relationship with Mike McCarthy and the players was actually pretty good. But what people forgot about and didn't focus on, I did. The thing that kind of got me was what the players were saying about the rating the Cowboys training staff and training facility. Training room, where you're getting taped and all. And that has a direct correlation to the player's health. And that's one of those things. I hope that the Cowboys have addressed that. Because, you look at somebody like Brandon Cooks, he had, we weren't told that he had a procedure on his knee, but evidently he did. And that kind of lingered and ended up being an infection in his knee, which I know about a flesh-eating. I've had a streptococcus A infection in my right knee that damn near killed me. So you have to wonder, take what he's saying. Don't sit here and just get the sound bites and stuff, but take it holistically about problems with the Cowboys. And if you believe that the Cowboys going out and getting Jonathan Mingo, now some of my brethren out there are saying that Mingo, is got speed and ability, and maybe he needs a chance, and maybe that's the case. Getting a training camp and off season with Dak Prescott, that he'll be better than the few catches that he had this past season. Maybe he needs an opportunity with a better quarterback than what he got in Carolina. Maybe. And maybe Paris Campbell didn't really get a chance with the Eagles because, they were more of a running team, and they already had their stud receivers and tight ends, so he just didn't get a chance to get on the field that much or practice enough, where they looked at it and said, you're just kind of a practice squad warm body that we have. And maybe coming here, he'll get a chance. And we'll be able to do things because the Cowboys have developed a lot of players and made them better than what they were elsewhere. They have. And you have to say, yeah, that's been good. When you take a guy who seems to be on the scrap heap and you turn him into a player that ends up getting a big fat contract. But here's the problem. Too many times we're taking the lower tier stuff and elevating them to up here, where you get them to their ceiling. The thing is you need to get some guys that are already here and elevate them. That's where talent does matter. And the Cowboys, whether you like them or not, or what they do, they don't believe in spending a whole lot in free agency. And so here's where, listening to Jeremy Fowler, he's got a point here. And maybe the Cowboys, remember when Randy Gregory was getting a contract, right? Randy Gregory, was it 4 years or 3 years? When he was out there, let's take that for example. Randy Gregory's contract with Denver. His contract was a 5-year, $69 million contract, right? $14 million a year. And Randy Gregory, at that time, he was one of the hot free agents. He went out there, he got that contract, he came back to the Cowboys, and the Cowboys were like El Paso. And they let him walk. And everybody, to a man, was like, oh, my God, you let go a stud edge rusher. The Cowboys are stupid. They should have found the money to re-sign. And they didn't, and it looked like they were geniuses. And we've been out here this offseason. We're like, oh, my God, we should have gotten Cooper Kupp. But what if Cooper Kupp ends up being like Odell Beckham Jr. after the injury? From the Rams. What if Cooper Kupp ends up being kind of Jalen Tolbert at best? And you drop $15 million into a guy for 3 years. It's a 3-year contract that he got, $45 million. You start looking at it, and maybe that's not exactly the best bet. The Cowboys, they're looking at guys that had potential, that had people thinking at least that they were good. Now, that didn't work out with Trey Lance, and that's a whole nother one here too, that I'm sitting trying to understand why we're talking about getting Joe from New England, trading for him, when we had traded and invested 2 years with Trey Lance. Trey Lance ain't getting any love right now. You could probably get Trey Lance, for typical third-string quarterback money. And at least you know what you got with them. Listen to Jeremy Fowler and put this where we are right now. The Cowboys have gotten a lot of guys. They've gotten Dante Fowler, who we know he is a great rotational piece. Solomon Thomas, that's an improvement on the defensive line right there. You brought back Osa and Digazua. You got yourself 2 linebackers that have been starters. One was a team captain. You've got more experience now with guys that are healthy that'll be here through training camp, through OTAs, that they're not guys that are 30-somethings that you sign after training camp and say we're going to plug them in. I think that's an improvement. And maybe the Cowboys keeping their powder dry on those major moves, because I'll be honest with you, how many players out there do you look at and say they would have been a major impact player for the Cowboys for the money? The running back market was really soft. I would have said bring back Rico. That's me. The wide receivers, most of them were kind of older guys. And the Cowboys are having a youth movement. That's not to say that they wouldn't make us a little bit better, but the risk reward for the money may be the issue. And I don't think that they're done yet. I think they're letting all of this stuff kind of go, and then they'll go through and try and make the best moves they can for the money that they have. Better to go ahead and say, let's get a lot of mid-level guys that we can throw in there than gambling everything on a couple. Jeremy, take it away.
Been in the free agent haze over the last 2 weeks. What's your take coming out of it, Jeremy? Just knowing all the moves that were made.
Yeah.
And the general headline coming out of it would be what, in your estimation?
I mean, the money was crazy. Guys got overpaid. I mean, we see that every year, right? You say B players get A money in free agency, but there were, I mean, no offense to some of the guys that were out there, but you had like sort of middle of the road offensive tackles getting $20+ million a year. That's just the way it was. And the money,
it's a lot of money,
came early. Tackle. So like by Tuesday or Wednesday, free agency was kind of dead. I mean, a lot of the players had signed and some of the money had dried up. Usually it's like a 2-week run of some money being spent. Right now, it just hasn't been. So there were a lot of re-signs, like Kansas City was interesting to me, because they kept Nick Bolton, kept Trey Smith on the franchise tag. Like they were pretty aggressive in what they did. Signed Jalen Moore, who's like only started a few games at left tackle for San Francisco, as high upside, but a little inconsistent. Like Kansas City to me is saying, okay, we're not just going to run it back. We're going to sort of retool, find some new pieces. They get cornerback Christian Fulton, give him real money. Like, they're trying some new things. They trade Joe Thuney. Like them to me were the Chiefs were the most interesting, and the Colts. I mean, Chris Ballard. Every year we see him take accountability for his team. Like, hey, we didn't get it done, but then they're not overly aggressive every year. This year they went and got 2 really good defensive backs, Charvarius Ward, Cam Bynum, and they make the Daniel Jones signing happen. And I sense some relief there among some people in Indianapolis that they have more of a backdrop at quarterback if Anthony Richardson doesn't work out. Like they feel like they can make it work with Jones, and he very well might earn that job.
That's brother. I was hearing that at the combine that they liked Jones as the guy to offer competition, and I'm just wondering if the words "offer competition" is a fig leaf, Jeremy. Like that if. Or a roadmap, let's say that, and that the roadmap is if they truly are going to put these guys out on a field in OTAs, training camp, and say, may the best quarterback win, that Daniel Jones is the week 1 starter in Indianapolis, Jeremy, unless some sort of Anthony Richardson fire has been lit. Right. I don't know. Right. And
I am leaving room for that fire being lit. I talked to somebody in Richardson's camp at the combine about this whole dynamic, and I brought up Daniel Jones and some of the things I was hearing. And they said Anthony doesn't care if they bring in Joe Montana. Like, he's going to go win that job. And maybe that's just talk, but I did find it interesting. Like, I think talking to some people there in Indy, they did feel like he was trending slightly up by the end of the year. He had regrouped a little bit, was playing a little better, but it's the inconsistent play with the durability where they're like, we have to get somebody and we have to spend a little bit of money. But they spent, $14 million with some upside? Like, that tells you that the chances of him starting are not small. On a smaller scale, we saw it with the Raiders last year when they gave Gardner Minshew like $12 million. And he was competing with Aiden O'Connell. Some people in the building liked O'Connell better, but Minshew had been a financial commitment to them, so they went with him. So sometimes you see that happening. The money usually talks, and in this case, it talks a little bit.
Did you follow up by asking, is this 1985 Joe Montana or 2025 Joe Montana? Did you follow up with which form?
I didn't clarify. Okay. But yeah, Richardson would probably have a hard time being a Joe Montana right now. But what's funny is he's more talented, and he's one of the most talented guys in the league. I mean, he's got incredible ability. So they're not discounting that in Indy either.
But there's a reason why Daniel Jones was brought there. I mean, that's a period. End of story. And man, that's why we love this league, Jeremy. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live.
We love this league. So the question will be and we don't know, and we won't know, if the Cowboys made the right moves, and we'll have to wait and see. I still believe that with the $39 million right now, we have $39,398,000 left in the salary cap, and we'll get at least another 10 more from Micah. We'll be in the $50 million range. At the moment, the Cowboys are in the top 10 cap room. This is insane when you think about it, because we always hear the Cowboys are in cap hell, that Dak Prescott's preventing them from being able to do anything. Right now, the Patriots have $80 million, Seahawks have 64, Raiders have 50, Cardinals 45, Lions 44, Chargers 42, 49ers at 42, although they got to pay Brock Purdy. So they'll get a chunk, maybe 20 of that. Probably be about a $20 million, $25 million hit for Brock Purdy. Steelers, they have to still sign a quarterback. We'll see if they get Aaron Rodgers or not, and see how they break that down. And then there's us. So potentially just getting 2 quarterbacks signed will move the Cowboys up even further on the list. So if there's a plan here, they're keeping it close to the vest. All righty, good people, as always, I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you soon. But I gotta get out of here.
Saturday more. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. Down. Get a hold of yourself.
Just let me handle this.
I gotta get
Get back to your seat. I'll take care of this.
Do you want to fall? Everything's